All right, we're at a condominium association. I think there's 16 condos here, and this is the entrance here. This is a parking area by the railroad tracks. They got the bamboo there, and then they got these 6 cherry trees along the entrance to this property. And I wish I'd given you the before. We were here yesterday to do the pruning on the 6 cherry trees, but you can see there's the main entrance. So before we got here yesterday, they hadn't pruned in at least 12 years. And I was the last guy to prune them. I pruned them at least 2 or 3 times over the years. And this was just so dark and dingy in here. There was no light coming through. And there was one just, the canopy was going straight across the top there. And we hit them really, really hard. And a lot of major reduction cuts up there. It's just way harder than what it looks like from here. You can see some of these cuts here. Big cuts all on those ends there. Reduction cuts all on that end there. Up here. Major cuts up and through all those uprights. Just all being whacked hard. I don't even really have to think of what I'm pointing. I just point somewhere and there's a branch that's been cut off pretty hard. This guy. Now see this one cut right here? That's a stub. And I asked the climber to leave that on purpose, and I actually, look, he left 2 more up there too. Right, now we're always trained when you prune trees, no stubs, no stubs, no stubs. So then the question is, why did I ask him to leave those stubs? Why did I do that? And I actually asked him to leave more stubs, but he didn't. Like you see, that's a stub there, you can call that a stub, right? He's so well trained that he was just like making all these perfect target cuts and reduction cuts. But there's another stub, right? So leave the stubs. I would even left a lot longer than that. Now, why did I do that? All right, so here was the situation. These trees are all planted fairly close together, and they're close to the entrance here. And they should be pruned on maybe a 3 to 5 year cycle on a regular basis. Thin them out. Bring them down to size, shape them up a little bit. But they were so thick, they needed a heavy pruning this time because they hadn't been touched in at least 12 years. So what the problem with that is, when you whack these cherry trees, and pretty much all fruit trees, there's a beautiful stub right there. Look at that. Why did I leave that stub? When you whack these cherry trees that hard, there's going to be a tendency for them to fill out with water sprouts, adventitious buds, suckers, whatever you want to call them. Adventitious shoots, epicormic shoots. Anyhow, so there's another stub there, right? So what I found over the years, and you can see it right here, right? There's an old cut. That cut's 12 years old right there. He left that. He didn't have to, but what I found over the years is that if you leave some stubs and the tree is going to put out a bunch of new sprouts because it's been hit so hard, what'll happen is the majority, like sometimes 80-90% or more of the sprouts will be on those stubs. And so rather than the whole trunk just filling up with all this ugly, bushy looking, shrubby looking stuff growing off the side of it, all the sprouts are going to come out on that stub right there. And so 2, 3, 4 years, now the tree's calmed down. It's not freaking out that all its tips have been cut back. The hormone has been balanced in the tree. And you can just come along and cut that one stub off right there. Boop. And that and all the sprouts that grew on it will just fall to the ground harmlessly. And you won't have to be like trimming the sides of the trees or the trunk of that tree that just looks like shrubs are growing on it. So that's my theory. It's my practice, actually, and I've practiced it effectively for quite a while. There's another stub. See, I would have left that stub a little longer. That thing's 6 inches. I'd have put a foot on that stub. Give those sprouts somewhere to go. You're saying, here, you want to put some sprouts out? Put them out here in a place where I can now come back and cut you in phase 2 of pruning. Give the tree some time to balance itself out. That's my theory, folks. Let me know what you think. I know it's, I've run this by some pretty experienced arborists, and none of them seem to get the like, aha, wow, that's a great idea. They're all like, I don't know about that, buddy, but it works, and I've used it, and it's just a little out of the box. So how in the box is your mind? That's a good question. Another good question for you. Thanks for watching.